Let's talk about reincarnation. G'day and welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you haven't been here before. I'm Kathy, and today I wanted to talk about Katharine Kerr's Deverry Series. Now, from what I have observed, fantasy fans don't seem to know Katharine Kerr's works, which I think is a real shame, as she's a very, very talented writer. Her most well-known works is called the Deverry Cycle, which at the moment totals 16 books. She has divided the series into 4 separate acts, and today I will only be talking about Act 1, also known as the Deverry Series, which makes it very confusing. Her latest book came out in 2020, and I think that was 11 or 12 years after the last book she had written in this series, or cycle. I should call it cycle to make it less confusing. Some people are speculating that her latest book is the beginning of a new act in the Deverry Cycle. I guess we'll find out if that's true or not. But today I am only going to be talking about 4 books in Act 1, and the first book is this, Daggerspell. It came out in 1986, and I think I might have read it in the late 80s or early 90s. And full disclosure, it has been a very, very long time since I have read this series, or the first 4 books in the Deverry Cycle. And my memory of it is a little hazy. However, what I do remember is how much I loved them. I could not put them down. I absolutely loved the premise of the books. I loved her writing style. I loved all her characters, good and bad. The major themes of the Deverry series are, I believe, redemption and reincarnation. Always a fascinating subject, isn't it? The main premise of the books involves 3 major characters. Nevin, a sorcerer, Jill, who is a swordsmith who also has magical talent, and Rodri. And the major plot line is Nevin makes an oath to right a wrong, and he tries to do so over several lifetimes. And the story is about these 3 characters whose destinies are intertwined and how they seem doomed almost to repeat the mistakes of the past. Katharine Kerr writes in a non-linear fashion, so we're constantly taken back in time to observe these characters and how they interact and what they've learned, if anything, in their present lives. I find the concept absolutely fascinating, whether we are doomed to make the same mistakes or whether we can learn from the past. And seeing how these characters may differ depending upon which lifetime we are reading about, I find extremely compelling reading. However, I will say that sometimes we don't know who is who in the past, and it might take us a bit of time to work that out. I know that some people even create flowcharts so they can keep track of who is who during the different lifetimes that we read about. But that is part of the charm of the books, I think. Another thing I really love about the books, it is very Celtic influence. And you will definitely notice that with the names, which are unpronounceable in my opinion, but isn't that also part of the fun of reading fantasy, is never knowing how to pronounce the names? I know I've had that discussion with my brother that we always come up with what we think is the right pronunciation, which can sound completely different to how other people pronounce some of these names. But they are, I believe, based on the Gaelic language, and they are unpronounceable. Kerr is really an excellent writer, and I think it is an absolute shame she is not better known. I would say that she is probably on a par with Raymond Feist. She's certainly a lot better writer than David Eddings ever was. Her system of magic is more complicated and more detailed. Her world is populated by different species. She is better at characterizations, particularly since we get to see these characters slightly different, living different lives. That is a talent, I think, in itself, to make us believe, oh yes, that is a character that I already know. They just have a different name or they look different. And that is part of her great writing skill, in my opinion, anyway. And unlike a lot of other fantasy writers of that time, Katharine Kerr's female characters are much more palatable. They're human, they're flawed, they're not perfect, and yet they're relatable as well. I found Jill a wonderful character, as well as Nevin. Rodri sometimes annoys me, but hey, that is just my opinion. I think he does improve, though, substantially throughout the books. Considering there are 16 books in the Deverry Cycle, this is obviously epic fantasy, or what some people call high fantasy. I know not everyone is fans of long series of books. You could easily read the first 4 books or Act 1 of the Deverry Cycle and it would feel like you have finished the series. That is the beauty with reincarnation, is that Kerr can go back and back and back and continue writing about different lives that the characters have lived. I think at the time that Kerr wrote this series, no one else had used reincarnation as a theme in fantasy. It has been done since. I believe that Sarah Douglas's Troy Game series deals with reincarnation, but that's the only one I can think of. I'm sure there are more, I just don't know them. I actually have not read the entire series, and I haven't even got my hands on the last book. I am intending to reread the entire series, but since it's been such a long time, I wanted to limit myself to just the first 4 books in the Deverry Cycle, which is Daggerspell, Darkspell, Dawnspell, I think, and Dragonspell. I am intending to reread the entire series, and once I do so, then I will review the rest of the books. I highly recommend the Deverry Series, or Act 1 in the Deverry Cycle, particularly if you love epic fantasy, Celtic influenced books, and you are as fascinated as I am by reincarnation. Well, that is all I have for you guys today. Let me know if you have heard of Katharine Kerr, if you have read any of her books. I would love to hear your opinions as always, and you can put it down in the comments or you can contact me on Instagram. Thank you all very much for hanging out with me. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, you can give it a thumbs up. If you haven't already, please do consider subscribing to my channel, as it helps my channel to grow. I hope you all have a beautiful day, and I will see you next time. Bye.